Rise, my video game. Rise.
Hey, it's Johnny here, and welcome to Forgotten Gaming. And today's episode, we are going to go over Advance Wars. The Advance Wars series are turn-based strategy games in which the player takes control of the tanks and soldiers that attack their enemies. Each player captures different buildings as well as their enemy's building in order to gain more points to rebuild soldiers and tanks. There is even aircraft in the games. The objective is to capture the enemy's HQ and claim victory. Let's go into the history of these games. The game series in Japan is known as Wars, and in the US it's known as Advance Wars. It was developed by Intelligent Systems, the same developer who made Paper Mario and Fire Emblem, as well as many other famous Nintendo titles. The first game of the series was developed for the Famicom. It was known as Famicom Wars. It was only released in Japan in 1988. It was also the first game ever developed by Intelligent Systems. Famicom Wars built the foundation for the future releases. Becoming a very successful title in Japan, this led to its sequel. Its sequel, titled Game Boy Wars. It was released on the Game Boy despite the first game being released on the console. Once again only released in Japan, it never made an international debut at the time. The gameplay was once again very similar to the first one. However, later they did make a revision version of the Game Boy Wars titled Game Boy Wars Turbo, which made the CPU more difficult and added 50 new maps. It also included the support of the Super Game Boy, which allowed you to play on the Super Nintendo. Two more sequels ended up being developed, known as Game Boy Wars 2 and 3. This time, the developer wasn't Intelligent Systems, it was Hudson Soft. Rumor says this is because Intelligent Systems was busy developing other games for Nintendo. Once again, despite its major success, they decided to only release it in Japan. Really, Nintendo? Really? Game Boy Wars 2 didn't differ much from the original 2, but it now had Game Boy Color support. Oh boy, the colors. And the better CPU decision making. It did, however, add an important new feature which allowed you to see what spaces you would move into or attack. On to Game Boy Wars 3 for the Game Boy Color. Game Boy Wars 3 added many different new things that changed the games from the previous titles, such as multiple troops being able to attack the same turn in one round. Players now had to provide construction materials to the cities and factories using construction units. The construction units could cut down trees and build roads. The biggest feature added was the campaign mode. Now with a storyline, the game had a bigger purpose. Later in the future, the game was supposed to make a return to the consoles, with 64 Wars being developed by Hudson Soft. It, however, never came to be released anywhere. There is still footage showing how the game would have been. It was going to include similar gameplay to the previous games. It included a 2D mode where you control the characters to attack. It will shift to the 3D gameplay with animations once the attack is being done. Now on to the Game Boy Advance, back once again, the original developer, Intelligent Systems. The game this time was released in North America in September 2001. Finally, Nintendo, about time. However, the game was not released in Japan at the time due to current events going on in the world at the time. It saw its release in Japan in 2004 with a compilation of the original Game Boy Wars games. It took a lot of time to convince Nintendo to release it worldwide. Nintendo believed the game would be too complicating for people, or simply they had no interest in turn-based games. The game was now fully polished. It even had an understandable tutorials for any new player that wanted to play. It fixed many of the errors from the previous games. They even added a multiplayer mode so you can play against your friends through a Game Boy Link cable. The game got positive reviews from multiple sources. With the success of Advance Wars, it got its deserved sequel, Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising. Not much new was added to it, but way more story and content, overall improving the series even more. It was now time for Advance Wars to make its debut to the Nintendo DS with Advance Wars Dual Strike. The game kept its original aspects of what made Advance Wars games so fun, adding new features such as a 4-army combat where you face others against your army, as well as the overall new content. It even managed to get a sequel for the DS, Advance Wars Days of Ruin. overall improving the gameplay once again, but it did include the ability to create your own maps now, which was pretty sweet. Last games I'm going to mention is Battalion War series, which was originally supposed to be Advance Wars' direct sequel, but instead they scrapped the idea. One game was developed for GameCube and its successor for the Wii. It was developed by QG Entertainment. Even though it was related to the Advance War series, the gameplay was extremely different than Advance Wars. You will now take action of the soldiers instead of the turn-based classic strategy. Essentially, Advance Wars Days of Ruin was the last true Advance Wars games. Nintendo, why haven't you consulted Intelligent Systems to make a sequel for the Nintendo 3DS? I mean, they might be busy with other games such as Fire Emblem, but it would be nice to see this game make another appearance once again. We can only hope for the best for Advance Wars. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy this new series that I'm bringing onto my channel, Forgotten Gaming. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see a future game that you think is forgotten. Also, if you haven't checked out some of my previous videos, make sure to click on the boxes that will be on the screen if you want to go ahead and check out some of my previous videos. Also, leaving a like or a thumbs up really does help my channel a lot. It lets me know if you're really interested in my content or if you like these type of videos. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.